Unmute by there.
Okay. All right. So the public hearing on ordinance 9252 is now open. A public hearing is a meeting that provides the opportunity for public discussion regarding ordinances and other matters pending before City Council. Today, ordinance 9252 is at issue. Ordinance 9252 establishes interim zoning of IE innovation and employment zoning for the approximately 65.62 acres of land located south of Bowling Green Road East on Durham Road, and recently requested to be annexed to the city as petitioned for by James A. Grandowitz Jr., the agent for Laurel J. Crone petitioner. Interested parties may express their views and submit evidence supporting those views at this public hearing. The information shared will become part of the city's permanent record and may be used by the members of City Council in deciding whether or not to adopt the ordinance. There are 4 parts to our public hearings: the staff report, the applicant or petitioner's testimony, public testimony, and the discussion by members of City Council. First up, we'll receive the staff report from Planning Director Heather Saylor.
Thank you. I gave you a handout for each of you to review, but basically this is a required public hearing to establish interim zoning of annexed property from Center Township. It's comprised of approximately 2 parcels for a little over 65 acres with frontage along Durham Road. It is actually between the addresses of 14771 and 14801 Durham Road. And then it's contiguous on parcels that are along Bowling Green Road East, which you'll discuss at the next portion of the hearing. Planning Commission held the required public hearing on December 4th, and they recommended this interim zoning of IE innovation and employment, which you'll see on the attached map does match surrounding zoning classifications within the city. I gave you a copy of the IE 150.27 of the zoning code, so you can see the actual standards of that district and along with the permitted and conditional uses. And then again, I point out the map on the back page. As you'll see, this property is pretty close to a special flood hazard area, which I definitely would like us to not go any further than that with annexations, because that does kick in a whole other realm of floodplain regulations. So just wanted to give you a heads up about that. Any questions for me?
So contiguous to a special flood hazard area, but none of that is part of the property at issue this evening?
Correct.
Okay. Any questions for Heather? So we're establishing interim zoning on this property. Did the property owner weigh in on this issue at all?
So as far as I know, Bowling Green Economic Development have been working with the property owners on this annexation, and Katie Thompson did say the IE, Innovation Employment Zoning, would be the best fit for the property.
Okay.
Is there a projected use for the property?
Not that I'm aware of, no. As far as I know, it's just establishing more property contiguous to the city. Hunter Brown may know more. I believe he has talked to their attorney, who is their agent for this petition, so he may have more to add. But as far as I know, there's no planned development at this time.
Any other questions for Heather?
No.
Okay, so usually at this point in our public hearings, we receive any testimony from the petitioner. Again, this annexation was requested by James A. Granowitz Jr., the agent for Laurel J. Crone petitioner. Is anyone here representing the petitioner this evening? Okay. So the third part of our public hearings is testimony from the public. Are there any members of the public who would like to address the committee at this time? Did we receive any correspondence, Heather? Oh,
We do have one lobby visitation, Vicki Venn.
oh, okay. Okay, we'll hear from you
For the
then.
next one? Okay.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Did we receive any correspondence on this issue, guys? No? Okay.
Knowledge?
So now we're at the fourth part of our public hearing, which is any discussion by members of council. Greg and Jeff, any thoughts here?
No, once annexed, it's a reasonable zoning classification.
Okay, so we'll just continue marching along. Thanks, everyone, for their participation in this hearing. This will now conclude the public hearing on Ordinance 9252. Heather, we'll just keep going, correct? All right, so we'll begin the public hearing on Ordinance 9254 now. Ordinance 9254 establishes interim zoning of IE Innovation and Employment Zoning for the approximately 95 acres of land located on Bowling Green Road East, recently requested to be annexed to the city as petitioned for by James A. Granowitz Jr., agent for Ronald J. and Linda K. Joseph petitioners. To start our hearing this evening, we will receive the staff report from Planning Director Heather Saylor.
Thank you again. For the location, this is right on Bowling Green Road East, which once annexed, this property would become on East Wooster Street in the city. The location, as far as that goes, it would be contiguous to those two parcels we just discussed. It's 4 parcels, approximately 95 acres in size. Address is 10433 Bowling Green Road East. I gave you a copy again of the IE Innovation Employment Zoning, so you can read about the zone standards along with the permitted and conditional uses. Planning Commission also recommended the same interim zoning of IE Innovation Employment at their meeting on December 4th. Again, I give you a map there on the back of your handout showing the 4 parcels. And I think that's it, unless you have any specific questions.
So these 4 parcels are also contiguous to existing IE zoning in the city.
Correct.
And here, did we hear from economic development and property owner as well?
The same request for the IE zoning.
Okay. Greg and Jeff, any questions for Heather?
No.
Okay, so next we will receive any testimony from the petitioner. Again, this annexation was requested by James A. Granowitz Jr., agent for Ronald and Linda Joseph petitioners. Okay, moving on. we will now hear any testimony from the public. Are there any members of the public who would like to address the committee at this time?
Vicki Ben?
That's me. Hello. Am I supposed to come up here?
Yeah, please.
Okay, wonderful. So my name is Vicki Venn. I know. Hi, Heather. Hi, Greg. How are you?
Vicki, could you please state your address for the record?
223 Lehman
Okay.
Avenue, Bowling Green.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. So I'm struggling. Well, I didn't know about the 65 acres, but both parcels, by your rules and regulations, can't even be discussed tonight. So if you refer to 150.111, it's 150.111, paragraph B specifically says there must be signs posted before they apply. Signs posted on the property, the frontage of any public access. And then because we're talking about 95 acres and even the 65 acres, it has to be 600 feet from sign to sign. And this sign has to be 4 feet long, 2 feet wide, and it has to have their name, their information, the attorney's name, your guys' information, and everything that you want for zoning on it. And this has got to be a big sign. I mean, 4 foot by 2 foot. And it's got to be every 600 feet down Bowling Green Road East, down Durham. And I took a drive down there just to make sure that there was still not a sign posted, even though this application has been in for a while, and there's still no signs posted. So therefore, we can't even have a conversation about this based on your rules.
Vicki, let's get a response from Heather, because when we establish interim zoning, we don't post signs to my knowledge. But do you want to respond, Heather?
Correct, that's for rezoning requests.
Yeah.
So, and then they're supposed to stay until 40 days after legislation is completed on that. So currently, they are in the tax bracket of agricultural, and that's what Center Township is receiving, is for taxes of agriculture. So if you're going to now rezone them for some sort of commercial or IE or anything else like that, that's rezoning, and that means signs.
Heather, any reaction here?
It's only for a rezoning request. Technically, this is interim zoning for annexation. I would get Hunter's perspective if you think it's different, but we've never required signs, only for rezoning requests.
It's in your laws, not mine.
Sure. So the distinction that Heather is making is that currently these properties that issue tonight in the hearing before this one and this one were in Center Township, and so we are this evening on our docket later this evening. We will be accepting or discussing annexation of those properties, and then once we annex them into the city of Bowling Green, we are required to set up a zoning classification for them, which is called interim zoning. So right now, these two hearings are how we are going to interim zone them. And so so for example, on Worcester, there's a big sign addressing a rezoning request.
Right.
And what Heather is saying, and there's our city attorney.
I see him walking in.
is that when
I talked to him earlier today. He actually was coming late so he could avoid me.
Right? So when we're doing something different tonight, we're setting up interim zoning, and our ordinances do not require said signage when we're doing that. We can ask Hunter now that he's here. We'll give him a second to.
Vicki, I thought you were going to be here for the public comment during the city council meeting.
6:30 for the special. I didn't know there was 2 different ones.
I'm sorry.
Feel free to stick around, Vicki.
What's happening? What can
Okay,
I help
so
with?
So your ordinance 150.111, paragraph B, states that there must be signs. And then it goes on to displicit the sign of a 4 foot by 2 foot.
I'm sorry. Signs for what? What are we talking about? I just got here.
So right now, we're working through the public hearings on the interim zoning for 2 tracts of land
Yes.
on Bowling Green Road
Yes.
East. And so the question that Vicki is posing is, did we need to post signs for those as we do with rezoning requests? And how
Okay.
does our code differ when there's interim
I
zoning?
can't speak to the signs question without, looking at it, I just sat down. That I can't answer. I can talk to you about the process in general if you want, or that kind of thing, but a question that specific I couldn't just answer right now.
Vicki, we'll get into it. I mean, if you wait around, Hunter and I would be happy to pull up that specific section and look at the language with you. But to date, so I've been on council for 6 years. We have never posted signs when we're doing interim zoning. But let's think about that more afterwards, but we need to.
Yeah, so it's actually not for you guys, it's the applicant. They are the required ones that are to post it. So it would have been the Josephs, and then if we take one step further, the Durham family that applied, that they are supposed to post it at the time that they are requesting anything for it. I apologize. I had to close out my email and open it back up.
I wrote down 150.111.
Yes,
subsection B.
150.111, and then it's paragraph B. So it says, upon filing a request for the change of classification, the applicant at their expense shall erect a sign or signs conforming to the requirements below, legible from the public right-of-way measuring 2 by 4 at the property requested for change of classification the same day the application is filed. If the required signs are not in place, the request shall be returned to the applicant as incomplete and not placed on the commission's agenda. In the case of parcels with frontage on more than one public street, a minimum of 1 sign shall be provided for each public street. In any event, 1 sign shall be provided every 600 feet of frontage. The sign shall give the applicant's name, address, and telephone number with the present zoning classification.
May I interject briefly? I'm sorry.
Sure.
Is that, again, I don't have it in front of me, is that for a rezoning request or for interim zoning?
This just says map amendments and procedures.
That's likely for rezoning requests, not interim zoning, which is, I think, what we're talking about tonight.
Okay, so they are currently zoned for agriculture. That's even their tax bracket. So if we're changing that to the IE or the corporation zoning that you're going to change it to?
I'm sorry, I don't understand. Is that a question? I don't.
So right now that they're all regulated under agriculture. They're zoned for farming.
You mean in the township?
Correct.
Okay.
And so you're taking them as they are as agriculture. And then you're going to rezone them.
I don't understand your question.
You're changing them from agriculture to what? To this IE thing, correct?
Right. So they're requesting to be annexed into our city. So we have to zone them something, is what Rachel's saying. And so Planning Commission has recommended that the city, in the city's best interest, they should rezone them innovation employment, IE. They could recommend agricultural, they could recommend, quite frankly, anything in the zoning code, but they felt IE is the best recommendation because it matches what the other property surrounding that in the city is already zoned.
Okay.
So they need to establish as a council whether they want to go with the IE recommendation or something else.
So they are not currently zoned under the City of Bowling Green's ordinances.
Correct.
In the township.
Yes.
Right.
So it's still rezoning though? Because it's all under Wood County.
They're not requesting rezoning, though. They're requesting a petition of annexation through the county.
To be clear here, whatever it's zoned by the township doesn't apply to us, right?
Okay.
So once it becomes part of the city, it's a new zone for us. We can zone it whatever the people feel is appropriate. Whatever it was previously does not matter anymore.
Okay. That clears it up. Thank you.
Sure, stick around, Vicki. I'm happy to actually look at the code with you. I just don't have it in front of me.
That's fine. Thank
Okay.
you.
Are there any other members of the public who would like to address the committee at this time? Did we receive any correspondence on this issue?
We did not.
Okay, so the members of the committee now have an opportunity to discuss the ordinance. Jeff, Greg?
I have nothing further. No.
No, nothing
Okay,
from me.
we'll probably have some more discussion this evening. Thanks, everyone, for your participation. This concludes the public hearing on ordinance 9254.